In fact,
I'm so excited.
Overcome by excitement, so much so that you fell asleep. But that's okay.
Yes.
So we were going to have last week. We talked about getting Amadofu on.
Yeah, we had little technical problems with Amadofu.
2 technical problems, I guess. One, he had trouble setting it up, and 2, you had trouble being awake. But that's okay. We are going to get him on at a proper time, and we should announce it and set it up properly. So hopefully we will get him on at a future date. So I kind of just asked Victor, so what should we talk about instead? What's a good topic to kill some time with and do 2.5 Oyajis on? And Victor came up with...
Yeah, we got something real quick. That's something that was going around the internet about a week or 2 ago. It came across my desk, so to speak, and it was this. Let me see if I can find it again now. Yeah, it's I guess a kind of meme, so to speak. It's just like
you're scratching yourself like a bear that's just woken up from hibernation, dude.
Hey, I want to show you something real quick before we do this. Look at this.
Is this Jungle Book or is this a video show? Oh, 2000 yen note, very rare. Very rare. Mr. Obuchi, his legacy. Oh, now see, if you've got 3 of those, I'd start to suspect that you're actually illegally printing them.
I've got 5 of them, actually. I don't know what the other ones are. But
how in the hell did you get 5 2000 notes?
They're really apparently easy to get if you're getting money overseas. Like when you buy Japanese money before coming over, they give you $2 bills. My dad had 10 of them.
That's terrible. That's terrible because you cannot use them for anything, right?
Well, you can use them. They're just rare.
No, you can't use them on ticket machines for trains. You can't use them in vending machines. On half the stuff in Japan, if there's a machine interaction that doesn't involve people, you can't use them. Pretty much, none of the machines were ever converted to accept them because the treasury stopped distributing them.
Yeah, but they're pretty common, pretty funny. And if you buy them online, they're actually worth about $23.
So you're gonna sell them?
I don't know. Probably eventually. I got a few now. I'm gonna wait till it goes up. But okay, so what we'll do? Let's link. Should we link someone to the actual?
Sorry, I was just plugging myself in.
Oh, we'll link to the actual. Well, we can't. Can we?
Well, you can. You can share your screen. Remember, it's a Hangout. You've got the screen share.
Okay, of course.
So maybe let me set this up as well. In the 10 minutes between Victor and myself, I actually fell asleep as well. We are old men, and we need our nap time on our Saturdays. As we both woke up, I was like with Victor, we have to have something to talk about. And Victor started sharing some links. One that I think your brother shared with you, and some other things, which apparently show that there is. In the anti-Islamic intellectual debate, there's a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of people going around at the moment who put, very, very persuasively anti-Islam arguments across the internet. And I didn't realize that one of the big arguments that's taken root in these countries that are debating how to address this, problem of Islam as the people opposed to it see it. They said that we should all be like Japan. And there's these ideas, well, because Japan does this and this and this and this. And apparently this idea suddenly in the last few months have gone around the world that Japan takes a bunch of very extreme measures against Muslims that have kept Islamic terrorism and all these sort of problems at bay in Japan.
Right.
And it's interesting. I wasn't aware of these rumors. I've just seen the list. Victor showed me. And we'll go through it with you. And I'll just give you a spoiler. It's complete bullshit. I mean, it's not that Japan hasn't been. Well, Japan. The idea is that there are no Muslims in Japan. The idea that there have been. It's probably true that Japan continues to be safe and law-abiding, Muslims and non-Muslims, and we haven't had these sort of problems of terrorism and so on. All true, but the idea that it's because of the reasons that I guess we're about to share when Victor can see the thing on the side panel. Is the reasons that they're giving it completely wrong.
How do you show your screen again?
On the sidebar, second from the top, is a green TV screen button with an arrow on it called Screen Share, and you can share your screen with that. That's why they call it Screen Share.
Okay, there we go.
Boom. I can see that. So as long as you're talking, that's on the screen, or you just tap yourself. So
okay, there we go. See? So this is the. It's not a meme exactly. It's just a kind of handy little guide to why Japan
has been going around.
There's no Muslims.
or that there's no Muslims or no problems with Muslims, and they believe. I mean, I'll read them off since I'm on here. But so let's go. Japan is the only nation that does not give citizenship to Muslims. Bullshit. Muslims can get it just the same as I can get it. I know Muslims. I know Muslim Bangladeshis with Japanese citizenship. I know Indonesian Muslims with citizenship. It's bullshit. Yes. Permanent residency is not given to Muslims. Again, I know Muslims in Japan with permanent residency. Bullshit. Propagation, proselytizing of Islam is banned in Japan. Bullshit. Again, and the reasons, if you look into this, that these articles say is they say that Japan prohibits the promotion of sort of foreign religions. Which, of course, anyone who's been here and has met Mormons or has met the Unification Church people or has, run into, the religious evangelicals here for all sorts of religions.
Knock on your door. You get the knocks on the door too?
Yeah, well, not often, but they exist. I mean, the bloody, sorry, lovely people. I should not say bloody.
The bloody.
In fact, I'm just going to stop that sentence.
God-believing people.
They all knock on the door, just like the same people who knock on the doors in America knock on the doors here, actually. And it's funny. I've never had a Muslim knock on the door, but it's not because it's illegal. I think it's just they're actually better behaved.
Yeah, they don't want to bother you. But I've had lots of Christians knock on the door.
Yeah, exactly. Next one. In the University of Japan, I'm sorry. Well, there is actually a Nihon Daioku, but I think they mean to say the universities in Japan, Arabic or any Islamic language. One, I don't know what an Islamic language is, but are not taught. A complete bullshit. At the moment, in fact, Arabic is an increasingly popular language, and there's a great demand for people who can speak Arabic for a start. There's jobs for it. And by the way, Japan has always had really positive economic ties. Well, maybe this comes into the next one with Iran, for example.
Yeah, we have strong connections with Iran.
Most of Japan's oil came from Iran, and when America started telling everyone to put sanctions on Iran, Japan got a waiver from America because Japan was so dependent on Iranian oil. Like we were Japan's best customer. So Japan is the only country in the world with negligible number of embassies in Islamic countries. Again, just complete ass, this thing. I mean,
when I first saw this, I was like, what? How can I possibly have missed any of this? So then I quickly realized after the first one, no, that can't be right.
Total bullshit.
Yeah.
Total bullshit. I mean, Japan is as connected with on an embassy level with Muslim countries. Again, the number of Japanese who I know who have worked in the oil industry, which relies on imports mostly from Muslim countries, and and who have worked in engineering projects and do engineering projects in in majority Islamic countries. No, there's a lot of interaction there. So again, this is just a complete bullshit list. Let's keep going. One cannot import a Quran published in the Arabic language.
Yeah, that's just a crazy. How would they ever control that?
I mean, again, complete bullshit. Complete, utter bullshit. Muslims must follow Japanese law and language. Well, of course. I would say.
That's true.
Well, they don't necessarily. I don't know that there's any law that they have to follow the language per se, but
well, they have to follow the law.
Yeah, well, certainly, and again, like in most Western countries, it's just the same. Their own belief in Sharia does not supersede the law of man in Japan, and I think that's absolutely normal. The Japanese government is of the opinion that Muslims are fundamentalist and unwilling to change their Muslim laws. Again, utter bullshit.
There's a mosque right down the street from my house.
Yeah.
They openly walk the streets with their wives.
One thing I'd say to this is Japan's had a long, very important strategic relationship with Indonesia, which is actually second to India, the largest Islamic country in the world. It's got 200 million people. It's majority Muslim. It's funny, India is actually, Muslims are a minority in India, but India still has the most Muslims because India's got over 1 billion people. But Indonesia is number 2. Indonesia and Japan have a very, very special relationship. It's based on, actually, in World War II. A lot of people, I know that Japan was really bad during World War II, but you know the story with Indonesia and Japan and why they get along?
No. Is it because they married one of our hostesses?
Oh yeah, do Sukano. Yes, yes.
Debbie Fujin.
Debbie Fujin. Well, that's part of it. That's kind of part of it. I wish they would just keep her. I don't know why they let her come back here.
Send her back.
Please,
she was like a second or third wife, wasn't she?
She was. I'm not exactly sure. She was. One of them for Sukarno, but actually it goes back before that. So when Indonesia was controlled by the Dutch, up until World War II, apparently there was a nationalist prophecy that people basically people fighting against the Dutch believed in that. There was some sort of prophecy from 100 years before World War II that there would be an invader from the north that would come and liberate Indonesia from the Dutch, and that they would only be in Indonesia for like 2 or 3 years, and then they'd go home.
All right.
And so all the nationalists in Indonesia, when the Japanese came, they became like best friends with the Japanese, and they were so nice to the Japanese. I mean, the Japanese weren't generally welcomed so much as they went down through Asia, but they were so favorably welcomed by the right wing, by the real radical, kind of nationalists in Java, that the Japanese actually hung around. A lot of Japanese soldiers voluntarily stayed after the end of World War II and actually, or even traveled to Indonesia to help the nationalist Indonesians fight against the Dutch who tried to come back into Indonesia after World War II. So between liberating or, getting rid of the Dutch and then helping them fight the War of Independence after World War II, just on a person-to-person level, the Indonesian government and Japan, and plus Japan keeps really good ties with Indonesia because, if Indonesia can blockade Japan. So they've always poured money into Indonesia, and right now with the nurses, they're actually specifically opening up Japanese schools in Indonesia, and they're trying to fast track visas for as many Indonesian nurses and caregivers as possible to come to Japan. So all of these nurses that are coming to Japan, that the Japanese government is directly going to Indonesia and begging as many as possible to come, are all Muslim. And Japan, there is no more proactive immigration policy that Japan has at the moment than trying to get Indonesian nurses into Japan to look after its old people. So Japan is proactively trying to get as many Muslims as possible at the moment. I mean, granted, from a country that's got a very liberal image, at least with Islam, although at the same time they've had problems with terrorism in Indonesia. Right. But anyway, the final ones are Muslims cannot even rent a house in Japan. Complete bullshit. Complete utter bullshit.
Yeah, they can't rent a house, but they can build a mosque. Makes no sense.
And there is no Sharia law in Japan. Well, I mean, so it's interesting.
There's no Sharia law outside of those Muslim countries, right? So,
sorry?
There's actually, Sharia law is...
I think there's some debate around that. There are
the land anywhere, is it?
Well, there are technically, for example, there's a debate in the UK, I know, where which is a very large immigrant, and now even multi-generational Muslim population there, and there are people who want the right to practice Sharia within their communities, for example, and there's a big backlash against even the idea of that from British nationalists. Yeah. By the way, Sadiq Hakan Gurs reminds us as well, Japan has a long history of very good relationships with Turkey. There's a bunch of with Iran, with Turkey, with Indonesia. I mean, Japan has really, really important strategic and special relationships with all of those countries. How many Iranians are there in Japan? How many Indonesians, are they bringing in?
People often think I'm Iranian.
Yeah, I thought you were too. Well, a Puerto Rican Iranian, but yes.
Puerto Rican Iranian Brazilian.
So anyway, you bring back your video, but it's actually I see some. The comments are actually going off, and I'm kind of interested to see if there are people more knowledgeable than us in the comments here adding anything to this at the moment. I mean, the Weibo crew gamers points out in the 1800s, I think it's a bit before the 1800s actually, but if you came to Japan as a Christian missionary, you were executed or chased out of the country. While Japan was a closed country, yes, they were very big on massacring, the old missionaries, weren't they? It was kind of a national hobby.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, but that was, yes, that was during the closed period. We've got Tibi Hiriandi. He's Indonesian, and he indeed is aware that there are some Muslims. I was just talking about the Indonesian ties with Japan, and so it's very nice to have an Indonesian person. Please tell me if I'm saying anything wrong, but no, Japan has a very special relationship with Indonesia. Not Todaiski.
I got a question for you, Hiko, about the nurse.
There's a Korean town. There's a Muslim town in Shiokubo. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Where?
In Shiokubo, which is a big Korean district, actually. But Nato Daisuke points out there's actually there's a part there that's becoming a Muslim town. It's interesting. They'd have good food in that case. I want to go there and eat. Like Shinjuku is good for Korean food. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Who's a commentary reading?
Natto Daisuki.
Oh, okay, yeah. Funny guy, yeah.
Oh, hey, Amadolfo's in the comments as well. Hey, man, I'm sorry we couldn't get you on tonight.
We'll figure it out for next time.
Is this a list? Did Mira make a video about this? No, it doesn't surprise me if she did. I'm not aware of that video. Canada Jane 3 made a video about the subject.
I don't know.
Maybe she did that. Maybe she's responsible for this meme going around. That would make sense. That would explain it. I'm sorry.
You know, about the nurses, I know that they've had problems with nurses for a while, and there was one of the problems was they had a lot of Filipinos coming over to try to go to nursing school here, but none of them could pass the test because of course the test is in Japanese.
They're not Filipino. Well, there are Filipinos coming as well, and there are a lot of Filipino nurses, qualified nurses, who are trying to come. But the focus on the news is Indonesians. It's more Indonesians, and the government's pushing for them.
The language requirement of the test easier, because that was one of the big problems in the past.
Yeah. So what they did was they have lowered their requirement, and the original test didn't have it was just pure kanji, the same as for a Japanese person sitting. Because of the need to have more than 1% of the people pass it, they've started to put furigana over the kanji on the test and stuff like that. They're doing things to make it softer. And they've set up, and it was a response to that problem that they've set up all of these language schools in Indonesia for nurses to go to while they're doing nursing training.
And it's. I have a couple of my students and nurses, and they are in such high demand that they will work for a year, and then quit, and then go off and travel. And I'm like, aren't you worried you're not going to have your job when you come back? She goes, oh, why don't you get another one?
Yeah,
there's always people who want nurses.
I tell you what, if you're a nurse, and the thing about it being a nurse as well, people don't take up nursing to get rich, right? I mean, nursing is tough. It's physically, mentally, it requires a very high skill level, and it requires the kind of skill level close to a doctor. You need medical training, but you don't get the respect or the pay or anything that a doctor gets. So you have to have a sense of mission to sort of be a nurse to begin with, right?
Ask Gaylord Fokker.
Gaylord Fokker. The guy Gaylord Fokker is big on is a nurse?
Ben Stiller and
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. No, I meet the parents, right?
Robert used to respect him, and he didn't believe that he got the 98th percentile on his medical test.
But that's it. I mean, granted, that is a true life story, but and being a nurse, people who do nursing are generally people who feel this kind of sense of mission to look after people, right? Which there just isn't enough of a population here to do. So. And even though they're talking about increasing the pay and making it, but because there's this shortage, desperate shortage of people wanting to do that job in Japan, and this huge growth of elderly people needing care, your friend's probably right. They could probably come back. The pay is probably going to continue to get better.
We should also point out that in Japan, doctors aren't filthy rich like they are in America.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, they're not. No, doctors are definitely not filthy rich like in America. Holy crap! I'm sorry. I'm behind on my Canada Gen 3 videos, but Ronnie Japan says that Mira wore a hijab in the thumbnail of her video on the subject.
We should have done that.
By the way, Asim Lab. I didn't. By the way, this kind of makes sense. You know how we say Sharia law? Asim Lab corrects us, saying that Sharia just means law in Arabic. So we're basically saying when you say Sharia law, you're saying law. It's like saying Inu dog.
I thought he was writing. I thought he wrote Sharla law for a second there.
Well, we all follow Sharla law. There's no question about following Sharla law. Asim Lab is a Muslim who speaks Arabic, and I guess you're in Japan. Everyone should follow the law. Exactly. Everyone should. It's just a question of should you follow the scripture-based law? And even then, I think you can follow. The question is when it becomes incompatible with with the law of man, I guess, with the law of the land. But I thought it's silly that you try to enforce a separate.
Oh right, and Japan has JKT48. I forgot about that.
What's JKT48? Jakarta 48. Well, see, I told you. Japan and Indonesia. They're like this. Yeah.
Hey, I wonder what they wear. Have you ever seen a picture of them?
Well, given that it's Indonesia, I would assume that they wear normal clothes pretty much. Although it is true. Well, again, I'm a reality show junkie.
It isn't. It isn't like the AKB48 with all the mini, the tiny sexy skirts and stuff.
Well, as a reality TV junkie, they have like Asia's Next Top Model. Have you ever seen Asia's Next Top Model? I've seen it on cable TV.
No.
And so they always make a point of having, one person from each one of the sort of countries around Asia. You have a Chinese person, an Indonesian person, Filipino person, and so on. And it is something that came up that they are showing a little leg there. That's them.
That's pretty sexy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there was this problem for for example, the Indonesian competitors on Asia's Next Top Model they didn't want to do a swimwear thing.
Oh, really?
And they were just saying, they're from a conservative country about that. But
how can we decide which is the best one?
It's a bit out of focus. I mean, they're all winners in my book. I don't know. I think you're introducing new and different problems. And yes, I see you've got your Gaylord Fokker thing there, but I don't know. But the point being, okay, they're not all in bikinis. Maybe they're slightly more modest than other Asian countries, but they're clearly not, in head to toe burqas, right?
Right, they're not. No, they look pretty normal, or pretty Western, I should say.
By the way, I would say, I'm going back to the comments. Mm-hmm. The comments here are awesome, actually. We should be following the comments here a little bit, because
I'll go back. Sorry about that.
As much as I'm learning from you, I'm actually learning more from the comments at the moment. So canon, you know how we talk about the canon of laws in the Bible, or the canon of the Bible?
Right.
Apparently that's an imported term. So kanun, so they say kanun, for example, for Sharia laws. Mm-hmm. What else have we got here? That's Asim Lim. Thanks for all this stuff. Victor looks, apparently Ron in Japan thinks you look like you're Turkish.
Well, yeah, that could be.
Yasashi89 has a question for me.
I could be Brazilian, Turkish, French. I've been mistaken as anything. So.
Oh, Yasashi9 has a very funny New Zealand joke for me. Why did I marry a Japanese woman? Answer, because sheep can't cook. Well, that's true. They don't have the opposing thumbs to hold the cooking implements. Of course, that's the case. Sadiq is giving some cool information. Indeed, that started with the sinking of a Turkish ship. I think they were rescued by Japanese people in the 19th century, and that started all that off. Christina in Japan is here. Hey, Christina.
Oh, cool.
Great to have you on the other week, last week. Yeah. So with the Sharia thing, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is my Pope technically, if you count me as still a member of the Church of England, he said that Muslims should have the right to be judged in Sharia courts instead of traditional courts within the UK, which upset a lot of English people, I guess. The Archbishop of Canterbury, so the Church of England Pope, said, Muslims should have the right to be judged in a Sharia court if they want to, even in the UK. What do you think about that?
It's funny to say have the right. It's almost as if it's some kind of
right.
Yeah. No, I think everyone should have the same laws and the same court systems, and But here's, okay, this is here's a strange thing. No. I'm sorry. No, one country, one set of rules.
Yeah.
But culture is really screwy. We talked about this the other day, but in Japan, you can get married at 16 if you have your parents' permission, depending on the prefecture and everything.
Same in New Zealand. Yeah.
Oh, really? So in America, the guy from Subway Sandwiches, what's his name? For Jared Vogel.
Jared, yeah.
So he just got sentenced to 15 years for having sex with women who were, I think none of them were younger than 17.
Didn't he get jailed for possessing child pornography?
Is that why he went to jail? 15 years for that? I don't know. I mean, not that I don't want to stand up for pornographers, but that seems a little excessive, I think. It's not like he made it. He just had it, and he got it from his buddy, So if you send me child pornography, I could technically go to jail for 15 years.
Yeah. In fact, even if you are a child and you like shamel a photo of yourself to a person, you can put that person in jail.
I mailed naked pictures of my son when he was born to my parents. Yeah. That's child pornography. I don't know. I think we go a little bit overboard sometimes. Of course, that's not what he was into. But yeah, he's 15 years in jail for something that in Japan Oh yeah, the other thing is in Japan, that guy who married the 16-year-old girl.
Oh, so it was both.
Was applauded. They were awarded the Couple of the Year award.
I don't want to know how we ended up on this topic all of a sudden, but just
different,
for the,
different rules for different cultures and different customs and different things that are accepted. So in one country, they completely accept it. But in Japan, I mean, in America, now you go to jail, right? It's the same thing in England, right? I'm sure that there are things that the Muslims think are unacceptable. And for example, walking down the street without your hijab on, so they're going to stone a woman to death or something. But in England, it's completely. You can't do that. You have to have the same.
Yeah, you have to have a common set of laws. For what it's worth, Jared was for both sex with minors and possession of child pornography. It was both. So I guess I added all those together. And I would guess he's probably pretty glad that he's not living in a country with a strict legal interpretation of the Sharia, of the Quran. Because he would be getting more than 15 years probably.
No, they would probably be applauding him.
Oh, dude, don't say that. Don't say that.
No, I mean it wouldn't be a big deal. I mean, in Muslim countries, what's the age of consent and all that?
Well,
much younger.
Well, again, remember the biggest Muslim country in the world is not majority Muslim, and totally varies, right? You got Saudi Arabia, which is crazy, but geez, it's a loaded term saying a Muslim country. What's a Christian country? Is America a Christian country?
Yeah.
I thought there's legal enforced, constitutional enforced separation of church and state, though.
Oh yeah, but they don't really pay that much attention to it. I mean, they do somewhat, but
yeah.
They still have cars that go down the street. Police cars say, "In God we trust." Okay, in the average age in Saudi Arabia is 16. Age of consent. 12 to 21. 12 to 21. Oh my God. Oh, I'm sorry. Around the world. No, that's around the world. Sorry.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia is not a good yardstick for anything. I mean, they're actually honestly.
Afghanistan at 16.
Again, Afghanistan as well is an extreme third world country. So I don't know that you can represent. There was this whole, you've seen, what's his name? There's that American academic who's actually very good at. He went on CNN and roasted some people interviewing him.
He's very good.
And he made the points very well, but you've got Indonesia and Turkey.
In Saudi Arabia, you just must be married. That's what it says. Age of consent, it just says must be. This is the only one that says that too. All the other countries have ages, but this one just says must be married.
Yeah.
Qatar. Oh, Qatar too. I'm sorry. Other ones, Pakistan and Oman. The age of consent is non-applicable. It just says must be married. But there must be an age. There must be an age. We'll have to look into that sometime. But anyway,
I don't care though either. I mean, the thing is, the age of consent's got less to do with what the Quran says and more to do with what the norms of that country are. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are. I mean, Netherlands age of consent is 12, right? In the Netherlands, Iowa people can marry at 13, right? There's the whole.
So.
Look it up. Seriously, the age of consent in America varies from state to state. I think, I remember.
There's a federal law that overrides everything.
No, not for age of consent. Age of consent, there's no federal law for age of consent.
Really?
So the TV show Reno 911? I learned this from Reno 911, where they have these little spots about little information. They have this age of consent information card. And he talks about, how he's going to date his 16-year-old.
16.
Sorry?
However, females may consent to ages 14 as long as their partner is no more than 5 years older. So a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old are okay.
So,
in Iowa.
Yeah. So unless Iowa's been taken over by, Islamic radicals, which last I heard it hasn't been. I mean, like I say, these are not Islamic issues. These are just the local culture. Mm-hmm. The Netherlands, as I recall, is 13 or 12 or something, So the point is, it's not really, but this is all. The whole point is that again, there's a lot of what do you call it, urban myths that circulate around this stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it's not that I really have enough information to necessarily defend. I'm not,
I don't know much about
I don't know much about the religion to begin with. But what the purpose of this show is to address is that there are these memes and urban myths going around about Japan being some kind of Islamophobic paradise. yeah, there was that crazy Norwegian guy who, you know, did the huge massacre and said that he wants to turn Norway into Japan, and his ideas about what Japan are. I like this theme, right? This idea that, you know, that they don't allow, you know, foreigners or non-pure blood Japanese into the country or something like that. Again, there's a lot of right wing, you know, kind of, well, so I was going to say right wing extremists, but there are a lot of what do you call it, xenophobic ideologues who imagine Japan to be this kind of closed period, Sakoku period country. And they kind of say we should be like Japan. In Japan, they don't allow any foreigners, and they, you know, they ban all Muslims, and they don't allow the Quran in the country at all. And they just make this shit up, and it circulates, and they all believe it. And now there are videos coming up on YouTube saying the facts that you just put up. They're getting circulated around, and they are complete bullshit. Japan is like one of the best friend of Iran. They're proactively teaching Japanese and trying to import as many Indonesian nurses as possible. Long history of great relations with Turkey. You know, all over United Arab Emirates and so on. There's Japanese engineers that build the pumps for all the oil platforms in all the Middle East and all the Arabic countries. Every Japanese person who works, you know, all the engineers in the Japanese oil industry take turns flying over there, helping them with their stuff. Japan enjoys good relations with the Muslim world because, frankly, if anything, I don't think the government here judges them or tries to turn who they are or what they believe in into some source of enemies, right? It's business. They've got to, you know, they just go over there, they work together, they have mutual respect. That's all that it is, and that's why I think that's why there's no problems. It's not that Japan is harsh on Islam at all. If anything, the opposite from what I can observe.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're building the largest mosque now in Tokyo.
I guess they could always build a bigger one.
I was just going to ask you about that because I just saw a headline. I didn't actually read the article. You know, it's not around.
Jeremy O'Kelly, he's saying the same thing. He's noticed on Twitter a lot of virulent white supremacists are really into Japanese culture. But I think it's exactly this point. And it's like this guy, this Norwegian guy. I think they have this idea that Japan's like a xenophobic parent. Everyone believes, right? I believed when I first came to Japan that Japan was like this incredibly xenophobic country. So if you're a xenophobe where you are, it's very easy to imagine, well, we should just be like Japan. And they're not white. They don't call them white supremacists, but they have a system there that works because, look, they have all this awesome anime. I can kind of imagine how a really stupid white supremacist could really get into Japan, as an example. But you don't even, you know, geez, you just have to be able to use Google to figure out what bullshit the basis of those ideas are.
So I found this. It's a Yoyogi Uehara. They're building the mosque there. You see that?
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I would think you'd be able to see it by now. It looks huge.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But you know, this is another thing. In New York or in, you know, Australia or whatever, when you hear someone's going to build the biggest mosque, you know, that's kind of a flat, what do you call it, a clickbait headline, right? It attracts outrage, and a lot of people come and, oh no, we don't want terrorists gathering in a place up the road from my house. And we want restrictions. You know, I think Switzerland has restrictions on mosque building and stuff like that, and saying we should be like them. Fact is, this isn't really news. I mean, I guess it's been broadcast, but I live in Tokyo. I don't give a shit. I think it's great if there are more Muslims and they need a bigger mosque, build them a bigger mosque.
We're going to need a bigger mosque.
We're going to need a bigger mosque, like the Jaws movie. I mean, I would be, of course, extremely concerned if you ever found out that what's happened in some radical mosques in parts of Europe, that they become recruiting centers and centers for, you know, you'd be concerned about that. But the idea that all mosques are that, or that's inherently a problem is so offensive to my view.
Well, so I mean, it's our show basically tonight is nothing. I mean, we're just basically saying that hearing those things, none of that's true.
Yeah, if you've heard all of these rumors, I mean, again, and Victor showed the list before. Let's show them one more time. I mean, just flash it up, but maybe but it is. It's just crap. The list of these rumors about how Japan is this this mecca, veritable mecca of anti-Islamic belief. It's absolutely not.
Let me give you a question, and not. I know this is going to sound racist, but I don't.
Don't hold back, Victor.
fear of terrorism. Let's not talk about Muslims for a second, but just fear of terrorism in Japan. What happened in Paris, regardless of who did it? I don't think the possibility of that happening in Japan is very slim, just because it's so difficult to get weapons here.
Well, it's happened in Japan, of course, 20 years ago, when they nerve gassed three of the Tokyo subway lines at the same time.
That's true.
That said, oh, by the way, I like that one. The Atomic Time calls us bullshit busters, which I quite like. That's what we should have called this episode, actually, about bullshit busters, Islamophobia in Japan, something like that. That'd be a good topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even the idea of the Aum cult, which there was actually a court decision out about one of the members who had been on the run for more than 20 years, relating to that just the other day.
There's still a couple out there, aren't they?
There are a couple out there, but
not almost everybody though.
But they had to go to pretty extreme lengths to be able to do what they did, right? They had to form a very big nationwide, radical religion, and then develop these isolated sort of cult facilities, and it took them a long time. But they were very proactive about nerve gas. Well, this is the other thing. I mean, when Japanese talk about the need to control immigration to prevent terrorism, Japan has a history of terrorism, but it's all domestic and homegrown. There was the Red Army, the radical leftists in the 60s and 70s. Then there were these religious nuts in domestic Buddhists.
Shoko's group, right?
Well, that's right. They were Buddhist. Yeah, Aum Shinrikyo, the Asahara, thought that his son was the reincarnation of the next Dalai Lama.
Wonder where his son is.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for the son, whoever that person is. But yeah,
a lot of pressure there.
So yeah, there is this. Maybe just while we're here, there was that mayor in Roanoke, Virginia, who suggested that given all these problems with Islamic terrorism and all these, who embedded all of these refugees going out of Syria, maybe we should consider doing with them what we did with the Japanese in World War II, when they reacted to the safety concerns about having Japanese in America, i.e., putting them all in concentration camps.
Right. Amazing that he brought that up.
I mean, perhaps in brief sympathy to him, he was probably saying what a lot of American people think. He was just stupid enough to say it out loud.
No, you're right. Well, that's Trump's camp. People who like Trump in general, not everyone, of course, but a lot of them support that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You heard what Trump wants to do, right?
Sorry?
National registration for all Muslims in America.
Oh yeah, he said something like that. I mean, yes.
But I think we should tell the people something that I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you this, but I will.
Yeah.
Because I know it to be true, because I know someone who works for the NSA.
The NSA, okay.
And they are stationed here in Japan, and they are watching.
They have a list. Well, wait a minute. To be fair, they have a watch list, and they target jihadists, or they monitor jihadists, including apparently there's some names on their list in Japan. They don't. As far as I understand, I don't think they monitor all Muslims in Japan. I sure as hell hope that they don't. I think it would be impossible. There it is, the NSA. Who knows?
I think they just know who comes in from what Muslim countries, and then they find out if anyone's connected to anyone who's on a watch list, and then they watch them a little bit, but they know where they are.
I think they probably start with the watch list, though. Then, well, who knows? I don't know, but yeah, sure. And in fact, I think there was this case. I mean, the Tokyo police are so incompetent. The National Police Agency, they actually accidentally published the names and addresses of everybody on their watch list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a few years ago. And some of the people whose names were published.
Hey, we're secretly watching all these people. Don't tell.
Someone accidentally leaked the whole list onto Nichan or something like that, and it became published. And then some of the people whose names were published on it, sued the government for defaming them by having them on a list of terrorists. But yeah, the point is, you know what? There is. I can think of cases where there was a flight from Philippines. Between Philippines and Japan that had a bomb on it by the same people that from terrorist groups down in Indonesia. It only killed one of the passengers. It was in the wrong part of the plane to open up a hole to bring down the plane. That's not to say that Japan is free of risk.
No country's free, of course. As long as you have human beings.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? I don't know if we could only fix that one.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Man, it's pretty safe. But we have lots of Muslims here, and there are no problems at all.
Yeah, well,
Have you heard of any problems that Muslims cause in Japan at all?
no.
I haven't either.
There's no specific for the people who think that Japan has a very, strict regulation of Muslims and a very, suspicious view of Muslims.
Mm.
At least through the Japanese media, I see nothing. Well, one, there's almost no awareness or handling of Islam to begin with. But what little there is, like JKT48 and that sort of thing, it's nominally just favorable. It's nothing about, but hey, we're friends. Here is a tour video of going to Iran, or here is the story of that Turkish ship that sank, or here's a latest eating guide to going to Indonesia. There's nothing that says be scared of the Islamic world. I guess maybe other than, of course, the international news, but that hasn't really gone through into hasn't translated into the kind of prejudice, I guess, that you see happening in the UK, and the kind of fear that's happening in Australia and America and UK.
You have fear in New Zealand as well?
I don't know. It's a good question with New Zealand. I think the difference between New Zealand and Australia, Australia has a long history of proud, open. I know I get Australians who complain and they say that I exaggerate this. This is my view as a New Zealander. New Zealanders and Australians think the same. We do, but New Zealanders keep it to themselves, and Australians are more open with their views. Yeah. I don't think that that New Zealanders are not prejudiced. I think New Zealanders are, but I think there's also a real sense of being careful about how you look. In Australia, Australia shot down the racial equality rule for the original League of Nations. Australia's got a very long history of the White Australia policy that kept up until the 1970s. In the White Australia, which under the White Australia policy, Italians were treated as coloured. Oh, really? Italians weren't allowed free entry. They were on quotas, but they were the darkest people that were allowed into Australia.
Wow. And
the original dark people who lived in Australia were not allowed to vote or even treated as humans. So
they're very good at the end though. They got a lot of their land back.
In New Zealand, yeah, the Maoris always did. But New Zealand was constitutionally founded on a principle of equality between Maori and white people, which wasn't enforced, of course. We were bastards to them. But credit to them that they were able to hold on to it. The Aborigines lost everything, and they're nowhere near getting anything back. Just a couple of islands, near Papua New Guinea. So it's slightly different. Australia, prejudice is I think it's easier to be more openly prejudiced in Australia than it is in New Zealand. There's prejudice in New Zealand, no question. In fact, I remember before this was really a thing back in the 80s, having, really Christian relatives in the South Island. The South Island is very white in New Zealand. It's like the South in America, perhaps, or, white towns. And there are not so many Maori people down there. I remember, there are
a lot of blacks in the South, but yeah, they're mostly segregated.
Well, that's true. So maybe in any case, there is a perception within New Zealand that further south you go, the more white it is and the more people are openly sort of racist. I remember having a relative saying how they were worried that with the increasing number of Muslims coming to New Zealand, because they don't follow the Bible, that there would be more crime. How could you be worried about religious people coming and increasing crime? But there's a lot of real ignorant people who think that if you're anything other than Christian, you're just going to be an anarchist, which is of course completely the opposite. If you believe in religious discipline, you'd probably prefer that there are Muslims to atheists anyway. So I don't know. There's stupid people everywhere.
Do you have any friends who are Muslims?
Yeah, I do. Phoenix makes a good point. There are a lot of Aussies who are very staunchly anti-racist, and yes, now the PC thing, actually, particularly in the cities, in Sydney and Melbourne and so on. Well, the thing is, the racists are so obnoxious in Australia that the anti-racists also are very obnoxious. So there are fair point. There is a lot of there's a big PC thing in Australia now as well, and it's growing. Do I have friends who are Muslim? Well, not that I interact. Well, for example, one of my wife's best friends is married to a Bangladeshi Muslim guy, although they're not on good terms. At my work, we have Indonesians, and I worked with. I don't really ask questions about religion much, but there's people I interact with on a daily basis here in Japan.
So one of my students' younger sisters married a Muslim who had another wife.
That's awkward.
Yeah, and the sister kind of looked up to me, so my student asked me to talk to her. I'm like, well, what can I say? I mean, if she's happy being with a man who's got another wife, and
Yeah, you know.
well, it's not really my place, and I think it's basically too late at this point.
Yeah.
Ended up marrying him. Yeah.
But there again, I mean, even on polygamy.
Well, of course, it's not illegal. I mean, it's not official. He's married to only one of them, and the other one just lives with them.
Oh, and you talk about that sort of setup. Divorce can be kind of awkward in Japan. It's not hard to do as a paperwork thing, but by the way, Ahmed, yes, I am your friend, Ahmed. Well, in terms of internet, I've got plenty, but even polygamy. For me, polygamy is just like, honestly, if you're cool with it, if you're adults and you know what you're getting into and you consent with it, I don't really see what the big deal is about legally restricting it to begin with. I mean, seriously, do you want to be divorced like 5 times? That's fine.
Yeah, there's not much of a difference, is there?
But yeah. Ahmed, by the way, Ahmed's an interesting character. Ahmed, I'm sorry, I don't want to mistake. I think he's from Tunisia. But yes, he's always reminding us, don't trust Muslims. He's very aware of the radical issue there. Asim lad, polygamy rocks. I wouldn't quite say polygamy, but there again, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, Victor, would you want to have more than one wife?
No. They team up. One's enough. I can't even handle the one I got. So.
I love there's a Simpsons thing where somebody says someone says he's got 12 wives, and Homer says, "Oh my God, you must have so much sex." And he says, "I told the 12 wives, not girlfriends." But yeah. Well, it's not good. But
hey, did you?
Algeria. I'm sorry, Ahmed. Algeria. I got that. I apologize.
I just noticed we have a little troll in our comment section. I was about to block him, and I noticed that we have a new troll. Maybe you probably know about this. We have something called an option. Instead of blocking them, you can put a user in a timeout.
Oh, okay, like a yellow card.
Yeah, have you heard that before?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Can you? Oh, hold on. Set user. Oh shit. Can you leave a comment, please?
Sorry.
Leave a comment on the anything. Just hello, whatever.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so now I'm going to choose you, and I can set user as moderator.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, let me get rid of that guy. Okay, add moderator. What do I do? Small name. You can set a name.
David the Gnome says, "Don't block me."
I was about to block you, David the Gnome. No, that's exactly what I was talking about. I think you're a moderator now.
I'm moderator. Okay.
Try getting rid of somebody.
What, should I block somebody?
Or put David the Gnome in a timeout.
I feel bad. Like I don't know. By the way,
you know what? I've made him moderator by accident.
Oh, that's it. Well, so now he can block everybody. Well, you want to fix that?
I just took it away.
Okay.
But practice on Phoenix.
Sadiq has a question for me.
Take care of the question. Yeah.
Well, by the way, no on 5 is a thing. How ironic it is that religion is supposed to bring people together when now it's doing the opposite. Religion brings people together when they're all in the same one. And this is actually the thing when you talk with fundamentalists of any religion. And that's why they're so opposed to there being other religions or people going to other religions, because they see it as divisive. Because they want everyone to come into their one. And that's the problem, isn't it? It's kind of...
It's funny that a lot of fundamentalists actually agree with each other in that they want to keep everyone out. Did you time me out?
No, I didn't. But wait, now I want to try it. I want to see if I can do it.
Right, yeah, maybe I want to do that.
Write a comment.
Okay.
Man, I'm so going to block you. You've had this coming for a long time, Victor.
Sheep lover. Okay, then. There you go. Block me now. Can you hear me?
Sheep lover, that is an offensive comment. I am going to... Well, I can report the message. But wait a minute. But wait, I don't think I'm moderator.
No, you are. I see there's a wrench right next to your name. Do you see the wrench next to your name?
I can report you. I can report you, but I can't. How do I moderate you?
Click on it. Click on the right hand side. There are flags that come up.
Let me refresh. Maybe I've got to refresh. Okay, write something again.
All right.
Man, you're watching history in the making here. Where I finally blocked Victor back to his own thing. Sorry, Sadiq's question. I think I missed your question, but yes, there are definitely Americans who are polygamous, no question. Oh, that's so offensive, Victor. Although I can't. Wait, can I do it to you? Oh, I can.
Oh, so you just blocked me on my own video?
Wait a minute. Okay, Victor is now in a timeout, and this. Oh, it says this action cannot be performed on the stream owner or other moderators.
That doesn't work. Okay.
That's a shame. Okay.
Well, that's useful. That's interesting. Right.
Doesn't work.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah.
Well, that's about all that we got.
Pretty open and friendly to Muslims, if anything.
I mean, they're actually educating and begging more Muslims to come and look after the old people.
They are Indonesians, right? So I didn't know about that, but
yeah. So don't believe the hype. It is really funny. I mean, between the people who believe Japan is a country of anime, the people who believe Japan is a country of endless money, the country of easy sex, and a country apparently now very friendly for white supremacists. And it's funny, it's just a normal country, people. You just come here and it's,
all the time these comments like, well, the majority of people who go to Japan are weeaboos or anime lovers.
I remember the first time someone called me a weeaboo on a YouTube comment, and I'm like, I didn't even know what the term meant. I mean, it's like me going to like a random American, like going to an Essexy Phil and calling him an America lover.
Yeah,
it doesn't even make sense that you're making that comment. But yeah, here's the thing. I mean, again, a lot of people have a lot of funny ideas about Japan, and it's really easy to spread bullshit about Japan because a lot of information goes around about Japan unchecked, and this is one. The idea that Japan is this hardcore anti-Islamic country, complete utter bullshit. So just Google it before you believe it.
Yeah, but make sure. Yeah, even after Googling it, you got to check your source.
Well, that too. Yeah,
as you just saw, there's a bunch of memes out there, or those charts that show you that spread bullshit. So
yeah. See, some people are calling me an America lover now. I was asking for that.
That's really insulting.
That's please, guys. I'm gonna have to start blocking you guys. Weeaboo warrior. All right. It's good to talk to you. I think we
should change what the word weeaboo means by just telling everybody call themselves a weeaboo, even though label everyone.
I think weeaboo means what you want it to mean. Should we have weeaboo law? Should people have the right to be judged in weeaboo courts?
If I'm arrested, I'll ask for that.
Yeah, you can get leniency for knowing more Pokemon characters than a certain number.
You can actually play a video game to get out of paying a traffic ticket, right? Play the cop.
Hey, Asim Lab, remember they can't Google it in Arabic because Arabic is an illegal language in Japan. If you believe the memes, so they would not be able to do that. So anyway,
we're gonna wrap it up. I'm working tomorrow morning, so.
Oh,
how about you? Got the day off?
I will not be working. Well, I will be at home looking after my lad. But actually, we're thinking about watching Return of the Jedi tomorrow.
Oh, right.
I showed him Star Wars the other day. He loved R2-D2, so we're cool with that. Empire Strikes Back is a bit dark. I'm a bit worried that might be a bit scary for him, but he loves Chewbacca. So I figured if he likes Chewbacca, I've got to show him the Ewoks.
Oh, yeah, the Ewoks. Well, he'll love the Ewoks then.
Yeah. And, at least as far as I'm aware, none of the Ewoks are actual jihadists or anything like that. I think it's perfectly safe from all perspectives. I don't know.
Did you see my Instagram?
You had Ewoks on your Instagram?
No, I had this.
I did see that, yes. Yeah, Star Wars is big here. I tell you what. Yeah. The Islam is, of course, perfectly welcome and in Japan, but Japanese are radical Jedi worshippers, I think, and Star Wars fans.
Well, I did a seminar years ago and I showed the mirror images of Akira Kurosawa movies and Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Like I paired them side by side, where you see two black and white movie, two Japanese people walking and doing this conversation, and then the exact same conversation. Well, not exactly, of course, but the same type of scene with R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Yeah,
and lots of things like that. But
that was it. Lucas, if he had based the prequels on Japanese movies, you know, maybe he would have had a better chance. That was the problem.
They suck that bad, but my wife was not impressed. So.
Yeah, they suck pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, did you think Daredevil was really as bad as people think?
I didn't watch Daredevil.
Really? I was just looking at Molly.
I watched After Earth last night. It was a bad movie.
What?
After Earth.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie. I just wanted to share that. Okay.
I watched Jessica Jones. It's a great show.
Okay. Well, I will look that one up.
Really dark. I'm can't wait till next season already. But
anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. No, Japan is definitely not a haven of a Islamophobic paradise like some people seem to be tweeting it is. No, read up. It's just a normal place, and that's that. Mm-hmm. So see you next week
on Higo Simon's channel. So,
yeah, next week we'll see if we can get a guest lined up, and we'll be a bit better prepared. We might even be awake next week, so it'll be good. Okay, so you have a good night, man.
All right, you too. Good night, guys. Thanks for watching. And out.